the Irish harp, evocative of the island of legend, and, says harpist Morna Watson, an instrument with a history.
The first iconographic representations of an Irish harp date from the 8th century. They're represented on high crosses, in Celtic high crosses in Ireland. And they're represented in manuscripts from the 12th century. And the actual earliest extant harp that we have dates from the 14th century. And it's kept in Trinity College, Dublin, and is actually the harp which is depicted on our coinage.
Not only Old Ireland, but the Old England too gets a visit through the Theatre of the Heart, whose latest production in Dorset conducts its audiences through hill and dale with a peripatetic performance based on Hardy's Tess of the d'Urbervilles. According to the director Morna Watson, the changeable Wessex weather almost plays a part.
The actual atmosphere of the whole piece seems to change according to what the conditions are. And I think that that's a very interesting thing in terms of the audience experiencing going on a journey rather than just having it given to them in a theatre.
Things haven't changed much in China, though, whence news of the situation of Ying Ro-cheng, the actor and Vice Minister of Culture, who was sacked last week. And the new film from Robert Altman, a stunning realisation of a vanished period which begins in the present, in Christie's auction rooms. Rich collectors bid for a painting. The price goes climbing up, £500,000 at a time, until it's knocked down at £22 million. It's Van Gogh's Sunflowers. Cut to the 1870s, the squalor of Van Gogh's lodgings. The paradox is a familiar one. Vincent has just decided to give up the priesthood, and he informs brother Theo take up a new profession.
I'm going to be a painter. What do you think of that? Not much. Well, it's better than that crap you sell at Goople's, isn't it?
Well, it isn't all crap.
It is
I'm
all
sure
crap.
you realise.
It is all crap. It is crap.
Tim Roth and Paul Rees are the brothers in Vincent and Theo, a study as much of the jagged family relationship as of the agonies of Vincent van Gogh. Tim Roth at least had the advantage of having begun as a painter before he became an actor. As for how to get through the myth of Van Gogh to reach the real man, he decided to read the letters and study the paintings.
There are several things that took place in Vincent's life which everyone knows about and which we portrayed some of. The real challenge was to present the man, the day-to-day man. We went about that, just myself and Paul becoming people which we assumed it was our opinion that's what they were like, what Vincent and Theo were like. Very much the idea was to portray two brothers, and I think that one couldn't survive without the other. Theo died 6 months after Vincent died, and the idea was that there would be very much two sides of the same coin, and like one person, but one half is living in Paris and working under the pressures of the gallery system, and the other half was going on being completely wayward and producing these considered absurd paintings at the time.
I do believe in you. But I just can't force people to buy what they don't want, that's all.
Your generosity is killing me. I want to make a business arrangement with you. Every month when you send me my allowance, I'll send you all the paintings that I've done. That way, when people ask me, do I paint for money, I can honestly say yes.
For my sake! What about me?
Crash, another masterpiece smashed, and it could have been worth perhaps $30 million by now. Through Tim Roth's performance and Julian Mitchell's script, Altman shows us not just the demon-driven artist pursuing his visions, but a man of flesh and blood, the realities of a life lived in chronic poverty and on the edge of insanity, and the self-destruction that seemed the inescapable denouement. The torments of genius came through strongly for me, but not for our reviewer, the filmmaker Jeff Dunlop.
I didn't feel I was getting inside either the mind of the artist or in the relationship between him and his brother. There was no physical relationship that I could be convinced by, but I also felt that the emotional connection between them wasn't strongly enough presented to me. So I had to assume brotherly love. I had to assume this fantastic bond. On the surface of the film, I thought, God, it must be very tiresome for Theo. Why doesn't he just give up? Now, I don't feel that was the truth of their relationship, and I wish the film had brought me closer to the heart of the matter.
I don't really agree with that. I mean, I think both of the actors looked very much like their real-life counterparts. And also I thought there were some very tender moments between the brothers, which did strongly suggest that there was great intimacy and love between them.
I guess my emotions were never quite quite engaged as much as they ought to be. For example, the suicide. Now, clearly, Altman didn't want a cliché suicide with blood all over the screen. No slow motions of death. There was a kind of painterly detachment. Now, that should have been effective, but somehow it just seemed to be thrown away, and that's a frustration I had with the film.
I do actually deeply disagree with that, because I think the moment where he commits suicide is one of the most terrifying screen suicides I've ever seen, where he stomps away from his canvas, leaving the easel and the canvas alone in the field. There he is, taking this pistol with him, and bang, shoots himself ridiculously in the side, and he just bleeds to death.
Yes, and my problem is that I don't think Altman really decided quite whether he wanted to make a painterly film about painting, or a brotherly film about love, or a passionate film about passion. For example, I was really intrigued, and perhaps this just reflects my turn of mind, but I was really intrigued at the moment when I thought the film was going to be a film about painting. I sat forward. There's a reference where Theo describes an erotic painting to his lover, and talks about the fantasy of entering the painting, and by implication entering in a more complete sense. And then immediately afterwards, Vincent with his lover and her little girl are in a panorama, and the realism of the panorama is so convincing that the little girl actually enters the picture. And I thought, this is interesting, and I was very excited by that, and I thought, between them, Julian Mitchell and Robert Altman are onto something, and I'm going to get an Altman film. I'm going to get something that's layered and dense and complex and demanding. But that seemed to slip away, and that frustrated me. Perhaps the frustration meant that there weren't enough emotions to really get the passion out of the film that you found.
I certainly did. So Jeff Dunlop and I don't see eye to eye about Robert Altman's Vincent and Theo, which opens in London this Friday and all over the country in July. It's 150 years this month since Thomas Hardy was born. An acknowledgement that seems completely right comes from the Theatre of the Heart, a group formed 4 years ago to put on outdoor landscaped performances in both town and country. Their Hardy sesquicentennial production is Trees Have Eyes, based on episodes from Tess of the D'Urbervilles and staged in and around the Dorset town of Beminster. The poet and Hardy lover, Jeremy Hooker, went to see it.
Well, we're walking down Church Street. I think we're now going to walk out of the town. We're following two figures. One of them dressed up in an old-fashioned smock frock with a hat with what I think is a pheasant's feather in it, who is the figure of the traveller. And the figure of Time is a lady in an old straw hat with a stick in her hand who is directing us down St. Mary Well Street.
Time enfolded by memory. This is where we begin our journey, moving across the landscape of the past. Leave the substance for the shadow. Through the threshold of the years, the traveller and I will make your way clear. Set out on the path.
Well, as we've moved out of the small town, we've moved into a very beautiful landscape with a tall round hill on one side and ash trees around us, fields falling down to a small stream on the other side, and we're following a party of children, of girls dressed in white. We made a move not only out of the town but also back in time, because these children represent the club walking in Tess. Well, we stopped on the side of the hill with the woods above us, the beautiful evening sunlight, and down in the hollow just below us there are two musicians, a man and a woman, playing, and the children are dancing, I suppose one would say. In a very charming and ritualized fashion that certainly conveys a sense of the antiquity of the action. Morna Watson, can you tell us how this came about? The connection between this particular performance and the environment, the landscape we're walking through.
I suppose the connection is with the past, not in terms of the historical past, but the mythological past and the essence of what is held in the land from centuries ago.
Interesting. You give us more of the folklore than Hardy himself does. You've gone back behind Hardy, haven't you, in researching
I'm
this?
interested in the pagan origins because I think that particularly the Dorset landscape has a sense of that far back.
Yes.
It goes much, much further back. And I think that Hardy was aware of that as well. It comes through in the writings to me, particularly in the poems.
As I look behind, I see that a party of heifers has joined us, cropping the grass and looking inquisitively at the proceedings.
When we were rehearsing, they were really intrusive and wanted to come and join in, but they've got so used to us and blasé that they now keep a lot further away.
What we're witnessing now is a piece of silent play. It represents the seduction of Tess by Ali Draperville. They're on the side of the hill, looking out across the fields into the valley. And one of the things that strikes one is how the whole landscape is serving the performance, so that as we've been watching the play between Alex and Tess, so in the far background, way back on the sides of the hills, you've seen the dancers retreating.
You didn't waste much time, did ya? You'll be getting more than strawberries, my girl.
You don't start playing with grass stains on your skirt. I wouldn't mess with Alec if I was you, my girl.
I'm gonna kill you. Come on. Yeah, I bet she wants that ride.
No way. On you go. Come on. On you go. You bitch. On you go. On you go.
Her path was through thorns and brambles, and her tender skin was torn. She was alone, uncared for when that blighted life was born. The woods and the wild now claimed her. Dark forces led her astray. The silent watchers saw her fear, but the eyes of the world turned away.
We followed in procession into the woods on the side and on the top of the hill, and there we've seen the baptism of sorrow, Tess's baby, and the service read over it by Tess. We've seen her walk away through the woods, the scene, of course, of her guilt. This is a slow-paced scene of great sadness. But as Tess moves through the trees, so she's met by Angel, and they engage in a dance of courtship.
I have thought it all over very carefully, and I can never, never forgive you. You know that I did not intend to wrong you. Why have you so wronged me? You are cruel, cruel indeed. It is all injustice I have received at your hands.
We've just emerged from the woods where the atmosphere was remarkable towards late evening, with some red fire of the setting sun coming through and a generally green and darkish light, and some remarkable use was made of the features of the woods, the standing trees, figures appearing from behind them, the fallen tree trunks and branches. And in terms of movement in particular, it was impressive. We're now descending the hillside with most of the rest of the audience in front of us, and some heifers very close, breathing down our necks, in fact. They've now skittered away, and we can hear music. And now, just coming into sight at a hollow among more trees, ash trees at the foot of the hill, we can see the children and the women dancing again in a ring to the music of a flute.
Though time and the traveller journey on, the history of an hour remains forever. And hence, of her you asked about, at your first speaking, she hath, I assure you, not passed out of continuity, but is in me. Voices echo down the vista of the past and are lost in the song of the trees.
I really liked it because it was, let's say, quiet. Yeah, I thought it was brilliant actually.
It's the best evening I've had for a long, long while. It was lovely.
We're in the pub afterwards, and we're sitting here with Rupert Harris, one of the young actors in the play. You local? Do you live around here, Rupert?
Yes.
Right. And who did you play?
Jonathan, Abraham, and a green man. Jonathan's just a normal boy in the 1920s, and he's quite a bouncy fellow, and he likes cars.
And the green man?
He's a mysterious character. He's kind of like a woodland person. Very naturous.
You know the places very well that you've been acting in, do you?
I go there about every day.
I understand, Rupert, that professional actors at Stratford and then the West End get bored with long performances. You've got 14 to go. Do you think you'll get bored?
No way.
That's the spirit. Trees have eyes. Jeremy Hooker was our reporter. There are 14 more performances between now and July the 1st. Take a pair of stout shoes and there's no need to book. Just be there at 7:30 p.m. in the Square, Beaminster. A more sombre anniversary this month marked 1 year since the grim events in Tiananmen Square, Beijing. And we read last week of the dismissal from his post.